In this video, we are going to implement a system for automatically restarting a compute engine instance when an alert gets triggered. Google Cloud doesn't have this feature built in, and I will discuss why I think this is, but as a workaround, we are going to write a cloud function that with the pub/sub trigger, then the alert will publish to this pub/sub topic to initialize the process. And for writing the function, we are going to use the compute engine API. The source code will be in a video description as usual. I want to start by mentioning that at previous companies I worked for, we had an explicit policy against auto restarts based on alerts. And this is because we had complex systems with hundreds of shards, and you can get into a bad state where instances get restarted randomly. Also, the quality standard was higher for releases just because of the scale of the services. And if you need to implement auto restarts, you probably need to do a bit more work understanding what the issue is. So I suspect this is why Google Cloud didn't build this feature into their product. However, if you have a small script or a service, then I think implementing auto restarts is fine. Okay, so this is the instance that we are going to use for this tutorial. I already deployed this Python script as a compute engine VM. If you want to see how to do this, I have another video that will show up as a card. And what this script basically does, it logs numbers starting from 0, 1, 2, 3. And between two logs, it pauses for 5 seconds. And then once it gets to 59, then that is the last log line that it will print. Then it will print done. And then it won't do anything. And when it stops printing log lines, that's when we are going to restart this instance. We are simulating an environment where your program got to a bad branch and then it gets stuck over there and you want to restart it. First, we are going to write the code that restarts the instances locally. Then we are going to transfer it to a cloud function with a pub/sub trigger. And lastly, we are going to create the alert that publishes to this pub/sub topic and triggers the entire process. For restarting compute engine instances, we are going to use the compute engine API. And for accessing this API from Python, we will use the Google API Python client. In case you don't know, this Python client is a wrapper on top of all the Google APIs. And if we search for Google API discovery, we can find a list with all the Google APIs, and all of them can be accessed by the Google API Python client. In our case, we need the compute engine v1. This is the API that we are going to use. The first operation that we are going to implement is checking if an instance is running. And this is because if we get a restart command for an instance that is stopped, we are simply just going to skip that command and ignore it. And here in the API documentation, we will go to the instances section, and we're going to use this get endpoint. And in here, it shows the interface for the REST API, so we can make a REST request from Insomnia or Postman, etc. But we are going to call it using the Python client, and this is the response we will get, and we are interested in this field status. And if we scroll to the bottom of the page, we will see that it has examples for all the Google API clients, including Python, which is the one that we are interested in. So we're gonna transfer this code to our Visual Studio Code and try to adapt it. So in here we have an empty Visual Studio Code project. We are going to create a function called main.python, and in here, yeah, we're gonna save this one. We don't need this OAuth Google credentials because the cloud function will have it by default. And if you have the Google SDK installed on your local machine, it will pull it automatically if you are authenticated in it. So in here, yeah, we don't need to wire in the credentials. And we're gonna move everything in this boilerplate if name equals main. So this will execute the code only. So if this file is imported into a different file, it will not execute this code. The pretty print is fine. And yeah, we need to install the Google API Python client in our environment. So for this, we are going to create a requirements.txt file. And the requirement name is Google API Python client. And we're also going to create a virtual environment for this project. It's always good to run projects into their own virtual environments. This way you make sure you have all the requirements and it's not using things that you have installed globally. You won't run into a situation where you deploy it somewhere and you are missing dependencies. So in our case, we're going to do Python 3-m for module, VE and V, and we're just call it my environment. And yeah, Visual Studio Code identified that we create a new environment. And now we need to install the requirements file in this environment. So my env bin pip install -r and requirements.txt. And it's going to pull all the dependencies of this Python client. Now it's good. And yeah, we just need to replace these fields. So our project is, we're going to take our project name from here. We need to take this one, the actual ID, like this. So zone is, the zone is US West A, like this. The instance name is Python GCE, py-GCE, like this. We can delete a bunch of comments. Okay. So yeah, now if we run it, hopefully it should work. And yeah, we see that we received the response with all the fields that it showed on the API documentation. Now we can refactor this code a little bit and transform it to a function, because we only need the status, not this entire response. And these things will be global to our entire file. And we're going to have a function get status. So we are going to return response of status. And also, yeah, service needs to be global, like that. And we're also going to use the logging module, because our then we can see when we deploy the code as a cloud function, we will see the logs in a stack driver and compute in Google Cloud. So we're going to import logging. We are going to do logging basic config of level equals logging.info. So now in here we can do logging.info. The status is a string, and then get status. And we can try it out right now. And we see it's printed the status is running, which is what we expected. Next, we are going to work on the code that restarts the VMs. And the Compute Engine API doesn't have an operation for restarts, but we are going to implement it using the stop and then start methods. So first we are going to work on stop. And if we go back to the Discovery API, we'll also the instances section, we go to stop. And we see the API definition again. And if we look at the response body, it says it represents an operation resource. So one thing to note is that this method is asynchronous, which means that whenever we make the API call, we'll get a result immediately, but the operation has not completed. And instead, what we're going to do is we're going to poll on this operation until it finishes, and then we are going to trigger the instance start. And again, we can scroll to the bottom in here, and we only need these 3 lines. So we're going to add a function called stop. Like this. And so this response will be a zone operation, and we will see it right here, and we're just going to trigger a stop. Yeah, so we got this response here, which is a zone operation, and we're going to look now at the zone operation API. I think it's inside the zone operations, and we're going to use this get method. So we're going to call this get method repeatedly until the operation is done. And I think this field right here is status. So we're going to do something like get operation status. Get operation status, operation name. So what we need is this code right here. So in here we feed the operation name, a response, and we're going to return response of, let's see where, I think it's called status, the field. Yes, this one, status. Status. So now in here we can log the status. Let's see, get operation status. And of the operation name would be response dot name. Okay, but now our instance I think is stopped, so we're gonna need to do the same thing for the instance start. And yeah, the API, let's say operation status is so yeah, the start code will be the same. We just changed the verb right here from stop to start. We need to rename the function to start. So we have stop, start, and now we are going to call start. Let's do it like that. So it says operation status is running. And now we're going to implement a function that is called, that is going to wait on this operation to finish. So we're going to do def wait on operation, let's say operation name. So we're going to iterate in, let's say, range 20. And let's say status equals get operation status of operation name, and we're gonna log it right now. let's say operation status is status. So if status equals done, I think we exit this function. Otherwise we sleep for, let's say, 30 seconds. So import time at the top, time.sleep for 30 seconds. So I think now our VM is, yeah, it is running, it's green. So we're gonna we're gonna work on the stop, we're gonna call the stop function. So in here, we are going to call this wait on operation. Just like that. So in here, wait on operation of response.name. And we need to do the same thing for the start function. Just like that. This is not needed. Like that. Okay, so now we call stop in here. And we'll see operation status is running. Yeah, so I skipped ahead a little bit. We see here that it printed operation is running for 4 iterations, and then on the 5th one it was done, which means it took like 2 minutes to stop the VM. Yeah, compute engine, especially when it's deploying a Docker image, it takes a while for these images to stop. Now that we have all the functions required, we can assemble it to our final code version. So it will be something like, if get status is not running, then we log something in instance is not running, skipping. Else we can log stopping, we stop the instance, then we log starting, we start the instance, and this should be it. Next, we are going to deploy our code as a cloud function and create the alert that triggers it. So in Google Cloud, we first need to create the PubSub topic. So we search in the bar for PubSub. In here, and we create a topic. Let's call it alert. Yeah, no, we don't need a schema. We just create the topic. Okay, very good. Next, we create the function, cloud functions. In here, so we click on create function. Yeah, first generation. Let's call it restart instance. And as a trigger, we need to select cloud PubSub, and the topic we just created, alerts, save. And yeah, I'll select US West 4 because it's closest to my location. Next, in here we select Python 3.9. We need to transfer our requirements. We only have this one, like this. And inside main, we need to transfer all these functions, just like that. And for the actual code, the main code of that gets executed, we need to have this code we wrote earlier. And yeah, this looks good. We're gonna click deploy. And while this function is being deployed, we are going to create the alert. So first we need to create a metric for the number of logs on our VM. So in here, inside logging, we create metric. We got here by typing logging in the search bar. So create metric. It is a counter. We call it pi GCE logs. This should be good. And now we want a metric based alert. So we do create alert. Pi GCE logs, rolling window 1 minute. Next, and the trigger will be metric absence, but I'm gonna decrease the threshold to 3 minutes. Okay, so for notification channels, we want the pub sub topic to be notified. So we go to manage notification channels, and we add a new thing in here, cloud pub sub. Let's say alerts channel pub sub topic, and topic name. Yeah, we need to follow this format from here, and just like that. So the topic name is alerts, but we need to pull in the project ID from this drop bar at the top. So we just type it in there. Okay. Come on. Oh, there's a space in there. Okay. That should do. So now if we refresh, we got back to creating the alert. And yeah, we see the notification channel in there. So we just add it to our policy. We create the policy. Alert policy. Let's say no pi GCE logs. Needs to have a name. And we create the policy. So now let's just restart. Let's just start our VM, and we're gonna make sure that the alert triggered correctly and the instance actually was restarted. Okay, so here we can see that our VM logged numbers up to 59, then it stopped, and then so that was at 14:25 my local time, and then it resumed at 14:32. And now we're going to check the logs for our cloud function called restart instance. And yeah, we will see that the function started at 14:29, and then it took it finished stopping our instance at 14:31, and then the start operation was a bit quicker. So yeah, it's not the fastest process, but it does work. And before we finish the video, I had to make an adjustment to the cloud function. So by default, the cloud functions have a timeout of 60 seconds, which is not enough to wait for our VM to stop. And you'll have to change it to the maximum allowed timeout. And in here, I set the timeout to 540 seconds, which is the maximum, is 9 minutes. So make sure you do that. That's it for today. If you want to support the channel, consider subscribing or liking this video. Thanks for watching.